When I started seeing vanilla midgets like Byron Taylor cohort talk about Gavin Newsom brilliantly trolling people, I figured, here's what I figured. Oh yeah, here's what Gavin Newsom did. What he did is he probably put up graphs and statistics of California's continued unemployment claims per 100,000 non-farm jobs, say, from March 2016 to February 2018, and compared that to the national average. And then maybe the year before the pandemic, Gavin Newsom also posted data for California continued unemployment claims per 100,000 non-farm jobs and compared that to the national average, trolling other states with Republican governors. And then I suppose he probably put up the average during the pandemic, which would be like roughly March 2020 to February 21, and compared that to the national average and said, look at that, take that, suckers. And then maybe the year after the pandemic. I figured if he was going to actually troll people, he would put up data like that. Other data he might put up, he might say, hey, look at the percentage of residents in California that haven't finished ninth grade versus the national average and versus other states. And he would put that up. And items like that. The problem is, if he did put that up, he would be trolling himself. I also have to say, it's funny seeing all the vanilla midgets kind of use, when Gavin Newsom went over to Truth Social, they were all autistically repeating the same talking points about trolling this and trolling that. And they're all putting their little shorts up because, they've never had a real job. When all you do is sit on your ass all day on social media. By the way, prolonged sitting is not good for humans. You need to actually get up, get out from behind, leave a small apartment, leave that little cubicle, or mom's basement, whatever it may be, and get outside every once in a while. So these vanilla midgets like Byron Taylor cohort and Miss Packrat, who've never had a real job, it was just funny seeing them kind of post the same talking points, just autistically. It's like a chewing the cud, one regurgitates it and then laps it up. It's just the same thing going up and down, up and down, up and down. But I did run some numbers for Gavin Newsom and for all these vanilla midgets. Let's look at California. I'm not going to name off all the states, although I've got all this archived. According to the Census Bureau, and again, I have data on here. This isn't talking points. This isn't an opinion. This is a fact. We deal with facts here. Not doing a 2-minute short where we use about 90 seconds of it talking about someone being trolled and there's no meat and potatoes. According to the Census Bureau, for the U.S. population 25 years of age and older, 4.9% did not finish ninth grade. That's the U.S. average. U.S. population 25 years and older, 4.9% did not finish ninth grade. Now I'm going to read off some of them. California, it was 8.9%. Arizona, 5.1%. Nevada, 5.3%. New Mexico, 5.6%. I urge you to look up the demographics of a lot of these states, too, and you'll see some eye-opening data. Texas, 7.8%. Iowa, 2.9%. Maine, 2.3%. Montana, 1.7%. New Hampshire, 2.2%. Vermont, 2.2%. Look at the demographics of the last 5 states I just read off. West Virginia, 4.1%. How's that? All these dumb Southerners that don't have any teeth and are uneducated. West Virginia has a smaller percentage of its population that didn't finish ninth grade. Illinois, that's where the janitor McStupid's from, 4.6%. Mississippi, 4.7%, lower than California as well. New York, 6%. Alabama, 4%. Arkansas, 4.7%. Georgia, 4.5%. Kentucky, 5%. Louisiana, 4.7%. Michigan, 2.7%. And Oklahoma, 3.9%. So I guess Gavin Newsom, if he put that date up, he'd be trolling himself. This is part of the reason why Joe Biden has committed treasonous acts against these United States by opening up our southern border. He wants to turn places like Iowa into places like California. No thanks. The states that have a high percentage of illegal immigration or immigrants that were admitted not because of merit but because of compassion, those states are near the top of the list when it comes to residents who could not even finish ninth grade. It's not a slight against Hispanics. It's a slight against immigration without merit. New York, New Mexico, especially Texas and California, along with Arizona and Nevada, have been ravaged by illegal immigration, although I would presume there are a lot of low-educated Hispanics who actually have found jobs in Texas. As opposed to California, they're probably most likely on welfare. Biden and his treasonous cronies in the Democrat Party since the mid-1960s was an erect an immigration system that was largely merit-based and had no welfare state to take advantage of. They have a goal to let in as many folks illegally that they can, eventually to sign them up to vote. Many of them will not work and will not finish high school. Ding! But they will vote. California is what happens when you allow anyone in sans merit. And California is what happens when Democrats have the levers of power for decades. Here are the tabulations of each state, adding up the percentage of those who never finished 9th grade, along with 9th to 12th grade and no diploma. By the way, California was the highest percentage of residents that never finished 9th grade. They've held that title for about 5 years now. I'll post this. This will be posted on Rumble as well, Rumble and YouTube, and the transcript will be on Rumble. United States, 11.5%. California, 16.1%. Alabama, 13.1%. Arkansas, 12.8%. Georgia, 12.2%. Kentucky, 12.8%. Louisiana, 14.2%. Michigan, 8.7%. Oklahoma, 11.5%. Iowa, 9.5%. Maine, 6.8%. Montana, 6%. New Hampshire, 6.7%. Vermont, 6.5%. West Virginia, 12.4%. As an aside, I wonder how those white progressives would like it in Vermont if a couple 100,000 illegal aliens were dumped in Montpelier. I wonder if they'd like that. Arizona, 12.1%. Nevada, 13%. New Mexico, 13.5%. Texas, 15.6%. I wonder if Byron Taylor cohort would like it if a couple hundred illegal aliens were dumped in his apartment complex. Bet he wouldn't like it. Illinois, 10.3%. Mississippi, 14.7%. And New York, 12.8%. The next time some lunch meat slicer with 16 Ukraine flags, I took the vaccine banner and some yellow teeth tells you on Facebook or Twitter, those Southern Republicans got no teeth and they got no education, you can kindly point out that California has a sky-high percentage of residents who did not finish even 9th grade and did not finish high school. A much higher percentage than all those so-called uneducated southern states that were overwhelmingly Democrat 40 years ago. California is the highest in the nation on that metric, the highest. California has held the title of least educated state in these United States for several years now. New York, a progressive mecca of higher education, no doubt, has a higher percentage than Oklahoma, West Virginia, Georgia, and is on par with Kentucky. If the Democrat retorts, that's because states have lowered standards and are graduating kids who are not ready for college, the response to that is, there's likely some truth to that, and if that is true, that just means the public education system, the government education system, has failed and is in need of some serious school choice reform. Democrats do not want that because they want to be able to indoctrinate kids with LGBT propaganda when they're barely out of diapers, and they need dysfunctional people. The more dysfunctional people there are, i.e. Flint, Detroit, Baltimore, the better the Democrats do. Take a gander at the most violent cities in America that I profiled, and along with that, I profiled their school districts. In most of them, most of those children, especially black children, are struggling, and those districts are a wreck. English language learners are dropping out of school at a high rate, and many of those districts have a massive issue with children not even showing up for school, which means it's a parental task. It's a problem even before they get to the school, and that is prior. A lot of those districts had that issue even before the pandemic. Now for another bit of data on continued unemployment claims per 100,000 non-farm jobs. And now if Newsom was going to troll somebody, he wouldn't use this. California, their 2-year average for continued claims per 100,000 non-farm jobs from March 10th, 2018 to March 14th, 2020, and I've already got this data up, 1,872. Their labor force participation rate, March 18th, 2018 to February 2019 was 62.266%. Remember, California is one of the youngest states. Now, California had from week ending March 21st, 2020 to March 20th, 2021, 11,924 continued claims. Again, I'll have this transcript up on Rumble. You can read it. Now, the U.S. average for the same time frames. U.S. average March 21st, 2020 to March 20th, 2021, 7,718. So that's versus California, which went up to 11,924. Huge gap there. So what I did then is I went back even further. So California trails on all those metrics by a large margin. This is actual data. It's not autistically repeating talking points and hitting the caps lock button. Oh, somebody got owned. Somebody got destroyed. Somebody got trolled. No, actual facts. Now, California from week ending March 5th, 2016 to week ending March 3rd, 2018, their tally was 2,123.2 continued claims per 100,000 on-farm jobs. Their labor force participation rate during the same time frame, 62.233%. And in the U.S., for that same time frame, week ending March 5th, 2016 to March 3rd, 2018, the U.S. tally was 1,368.7 versus 2123. So you can see there the U.S. labor force participation rate was higher than California was, 62.833%. Again, California's got the highest percentage of people under 65. So you can see on those metrics, the Democrats have been running California for decades. It's getting worse under Gavin Newsom. Crime is getting worse. In the 80s and 90s, California was one of the most dangerous states. Over the last, for almost 20 years, California moved to, it was a low homicide state, moved to the safe side. Well, now under Gavin Newsom, it's starting to revert back to what it was 30 years ago. So if Gavin Newsom's going to troll somebody, he's certainly not going to talk about economic facts. He's not going to mention economic data. Now, he might try to be a sideshow clown and a comedian because that's all he can do, but he's not going to focus on the economy because he'll lose. You can see how California pre-pandemic, during the pandemic, and post-pandemic have economic numbers much worse than the U.S. average. California sucks, and so does Gavin Newsom. He's an idiot. Byron Taylor cohort, he's dumber than a sack of hammers if he thinks Gavin Newsom is fooling or trolling anyone with an IQ above room temperature. And my last little bit, Clay and Buck played a segment earlier last week, and Newsom was asked about how the Los Angeles DA is doing controlling crime, and the answer is hilarious.
Given the massive increase in crime that is taking place there.
And I would just note that Clay and I have been doing the show together for a year. We've been talking about the crime issue. We've been saying now for over a year, look at the numbers around the country. A 30% increase in homicides in 2021 over the previous year, the biggest increase in 1 year since they have been federally or nationally tracking homicides, okay? So it's not like it was just a little bit of a blip on the radar. This was a massive move in the wrong direction, and it coincided with a perfect storm of the BLM movement, the defund police movement, the progressive prosecutors, and the ending of mass incarceration. All of those pieces together. People say, well, why'd this happen? Like, we don't have the answers. We do have the answers. Now you see that even Democrats, while they won't say, Clay and Buck were right, they should, but they're making decisions that show that what we have been talking about on this show, which is rooted in the data, which is rooted in the reality, is true. We already had Chesa Boudin knocked out of the prosecutor's office, district attorney's office in San Francisco, and now the effort to get rid of DA George Gascon, the district attorney of Los Angeles, has cleared its first hurdle as the registrar prepares a full check of signatures. That's the headline up on foxnews.com right now. So it's moving all along. Clay, if we get the 1-2 here, this would be a seismic shock to the progressive judicial and criminal justice philosophy. But here's what happens when they ask Gavin Newsom. This is such a Newsom moment. What do you think about the job that Gascon's doing?
Well, I have an aversion to recalls, as you know, and I'm not convinced that's the best democratic approach to solving every problem.
But is he doing a good job?
I don't know enough about the job he's done. I'm deeply concerned about the criticism, and we have expressed ourselves very publicly along those lines, including in Los Angeles, as it relates to some of the issue happening with retail theft, some of the issue was happening on the railroad.
I mean, look at how slippery he is, Clay. You are the governor of California. You are asked about the biggest city in your state, whether the DA is doing a good job. You are technically the chief executive branch official of your state. Clay, he has no feelings on the matter, apparently.
Well, it's so funny to me because exactly your number one job, probably, if you are the governor of California, is to know what? How highly elected officials in the biggest cities in your state are doing their jobs. That's your job. That's like the owner of an NFL franchise being asked about how his coach is doing and saying, well, I really haven't looked at it that closely. No. That's your job, to look at it closely. And he's trying to dodge it there, but ultimately he just decides, screw it, I'm going to cut his legs out from underneath him.